Hey, what's up, you sexy bitches, and welcome back to this week's Weekly D. And today I have an extra special guest on. I have Madeline Chalk on. Now, if you've never heard of Madeline before, Madeline is a comedian that works on social media, creating the coolest content. I am obsessed with her because she's just so funny. She does some crazy stuff with music lyrics and turns them into TED Talks and movie intros. Like, honestly, she's just great, and I'm so glad I talked to her because she's just the nicest person. So I'm really excited for you to listen to this episode. Go and check out mad.chalk on Instagram and go and check out her stuff first before you even listen to this episode. So if you're listening now, quickly pause it, go on to mad.chalk and go and check out her Instagram profile and enjoy a few videos and then come back. Without further ado, this is the Weekly D. Because, honey, if you ain't getting your D on the daily, you better at least be getting it once on the weekly.
Weekly D. If you're not getting any and you want some tea, then come and join Dan up on the Weekly D. It's the Weekly D.
Hey Madeline, thank you so much for coming onto my podcast. It is so cool to talk to you. And I got to say as well, you're actually my first podcast I'm doing with someone that is kind of really disconnected from the pole world. So this is so fun because this is really where I want to take this podcast and interview just really cool people, really. So thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. And you have been my key into the pole world. I'm obsessed with it and with you now. Like, I've always been so jealous of dancers in general. I could never dance. But that specifically is so athletic, so artful, and you're amazing at it. So I'm beyond honored to be chatting with you.
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to start off with getting you to kind of introduce yourself. So for people who are listening to this, a lot of them will be pole dancers at this point. So I want you just to tell them a little bit about who you are, what it is that you do, and just, give us a little bio. Big up yourself and tell them how amazing you are.
Guys, listen. Well, I'm definitely not a pole dancer. I will tell people mostly that I'm a content creator. That's what I'm doing these days. So my niche is comedy. And I was doing comedy live, like stand-up and sketch comedy in LA, where I live, for a while, ever since I moved here, and was always scared of social media, to be honest, and then got into it kind of accidentally. I'm sure a lot of people have either heard a story like this or maybe can relate to it themselves, but Christmas 2 years ago, or I guess like 2 Christmases ago, so a little over a year, I made some random TikTok. I was kind of just like, whatever, threw it up, and it went insanely viral. And honestly, I got this total false sense of confidence and just started doing TikTok every day. I was like, this is my thing now. I became obsessed with it, social media strategy, and, picking other creators' brains. And then 6 months later, I would say, it became my full-time gig. So that's kind of what I do every day now. I'm just home filming and posting and, obsessing and crying about comments. That's just kind of my bag now.
And one of the things am I correct in saying this? The first kind of sketches that you started off was taking songs and turning them into TED Talks. That was your first gig, right?
That was my first thing that really took off. So I was actually I had been on TikTok and posting every day and really trying to find my voice for more like 4 months. And that was really just every day doing whatever. I would just throw shit at the wall, come up with random ideas. And that was how the TED Talk thing started. So it was the lyrics of this song All Star by Smash Mouth. The second verse, it sounds so preachy. It's like someone asked me for change for gas and I gave it to them, blah, blah. And to me, it just sounded like a TED Talk. So I just was like, that'll be my video for the day, whatever. I do it and I post it, and then I immediately started getting requests because obviously people are like, oh, this song would also work for that. So because I'm super lazy and because requests are good for content, if you want to grow a series because people want to chime in and be like, oh, let me request this. It became this really easy thing. I was on total autopilot for a while of today I'll do, Party in the USA as a TED Talk. Easy breezy. And I had learned that was the best way to grow. So, and obviously we're all chasing the clouds. It's like a drug. So,
it so is, isn't it? It so is though.
It's all it's about now, which is really interesting because that is so, I'm sure you feel like this. It's like growing, you know, whatever, having more reach, expanding your platform. That's always just at the forefront of our minds now. But it really wasn't like a few years ago. It wasn't really always just about getting more followers. It was kind of more about, but I think that's because there wasn't as much competition on the apps. But anyway, the TED Talk thing slowly became a snooze fest for me. I was like, oh, this is boring. So then I expanded and started doing like scenes and characters and movies and stuff. So yeah, lyrics just kind of became like, you know, the dough. And then I've just made it into a bunch of different stuff. And so yeah, that's my main gig.
Yeah. So I think the one that I think I must have just been, you know, when you're just like scrolling, you're just at home, and I came across, I think it was, I'll always remember it. It sticks in my head so well. And I can even almost like say it almost like you said it. You know, that Khalees song was that Milkshake, and you were like, you like turn, and the way you like so intently look at the screen, you go, and like you're looking into it, and it's like, I could teach you. But, and then you turn around, you press the button, you're like, I'd have to charge. And I just remember watching it, I was like, oh my God, this is hilarious. I was like, I've never seen anything like this before. Had you seen anything like that prior to when you were doing it?
I'd seen like clips of TED Talks. I've actually learned since doing this that like most TED Talkers don't have a remote or do any clicking. And I'm like, okay. People love to correct me on that. But I'd seen the occasional TED Talk about just random things. It's always the most random, super niche things. But the Milkshake one was so funny because that line of I could teach you, but I have to charge. I was like, oh my God, how has someone not already come up with this idea for this song? Because it just sounds like someone being like, I'll teach you how to bring all the boys to the yard with my simple, 10-step course, whatever. So it's, it's no surprise that one did well because that song is just ridiculous to begin with. And then as a speech,
the song, that's why it just made it even funnier. Like to think of the song Milkshake mixed with a TED Talk, which generally are quite serious subjects, aren't they? It was just so funny. I just remember seeing it, and then that's when I just got lost scrolling through. I was like, wow, these are amazing. So I was just obsessed. And I just love that you'd kind of created something like so fresh and so new. So, and back then, and as I was saying just before we started recording, back then, I think you must have had about 10 or 15,000 followers. And I thought, oh, wow. And I messaged you. I remember reaching out and saying, wow, what you're doing is so amazing. Like, keep going. This is so cool. And then I just saw it keep going. That's why I messaged you. I was like, I've got to interview you because I just wanted to find out more about your story. So tell me a little bit about, where does it all start for you? Like, are you from LA?
Not from LA. I'm from the East Coast. I grew up in DC. And while I was in college in Virginia, so right outside DC, I had this internship in LA and kind of caught the entertainment bug. I'd always been a performer. I was really that bitch in high school. I was so annoying. I was obsessed with like being in the shows and singing and all that. And as I got older, I was kind of like, no, I'm going to be a corporate girly. So I got an internship in LA working for like an entertainment, like in script development, basically. So it's kind of like, it's attached to like an entertainment in the movie world, but you'd really be like working in an office and like being all serious. And I was like, that's my game. And so after the internship, I graduated and came right back out to LA. And the first thing you're supposed to do kind of, if you want to get into the exec world, is work for a corporate entertainment person, so like a talent agent. And it was so brutal and I was so soft and honestly just dumb. I lasted 3 months. My poor boss, I ran into her actually recently, years later at a restaurant, and I apologized to her. I was like, I'm so sorry. I was really such a bad assistant. And she was trying to be nice at the time, but like, yeah, I mean, she made me cry. I deserved it, but like, it was rough 3 months. So anyway, then after that, it's not for the faint of heart. It was definitely not for me. But then, so after that, I was kind of like, well, I'm out here. I have all this performance background and, why don't I just be the stereotype? I'll just get like a table waiting job and just try and like be a comedian and a performer, just like see what happens. So I did that for a while. I did live comedy. I like made some of my own live shows and was just kind of running around like doing whatever. And then the pandemic hit. So the pandemic, obviously weird time for everybody, but for people who are doing live stuff, yeah, done. It's over. I mean, their theaters are shut down. So I really had to figure out something else. And I wish I could say that like the second the pandemic hit, I was like, let me download an app and put my comedy out there for the world to see. But like, no, I didn't have the confidence, and I was lazy, and I was just like sulking, and I was like, ugh. So it took me like, until 2021 Christmas to just be like, let me just try it. And then since then it worked out, but that was kind of accidental, like getting the initial confidence. But after that, so I can account for this like really rapid growth on Instagram and like I think averagely fast growth on TikTok. That was really intentional. I would spend probably just as much time as I was filming and coming up with ideas on YouTube, learning about strategy and just kind of understanding what these apps even are, how you help them help you. And so now I can't unlearn that knowledge. And so sometimes it's hard to be creative knowing all that, knowing the codes. But I would say that's just as important as making good content. And then I think that's why it intimidates people.
It's such a full-time job, like content creation. Like I was talking to someone the other day and I was saying to them about how, I wish it was as easy as just editing my video on Instagram, posting it, and then just posting the same video that was already all edited on Instagram, putting it on TikTok. And they're like, oh no, you shouldn't really do that because apparently it means you won't show in the algorithms as well because they prefer you to edit it in their app. And I'm like, really? As if we haven't got enough shit to do. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's so hard. But
it's hard. It's a nightmare sometimes. It's intense. Because you want to give the app what they want. It's like, I'm not trying to game the system. You're not either. We want to, do what the apps want. But the thing is, like, even that advice, like, it's not always true. Like the way I started growing on Instagram was truly by just taking my TikToks, putting them through like some site. I don't know, maybe I should be admitting this, whatever, that just removes the watermark, threw them up on Instagram and kind of sat back. And so, but I mean, again, that does not work for other creators. And now it's totally different. Like right now, TikTok and I are beefing. Like you, I'm sure have experienced this where like sometimes the algorithm is just mad at you. It's like a friend who's giving you the silent treatment and you don't know why. And the only way you can get them to forgive you is if you just keep obsessing. It sucks too. Yeah. You can't really be like, all right, well then fuck you too. I'm going to get off the app. It's like, no, you have to participate. So every day you're just like, please like me again.
Do you, I don't know about for you, probably different for me maybe. I don't know. Tell me if it's the same for you. But for me, I have to keep going because so much of my work, like the people that book me for workshops, people that book me for classes, students that come to my online classes, it all comes from social media. I can't just stop. I can't be like, oh, Instagram hates me. I have to keep going because I have to make sure that people are seeing my stuff. And that if it's, don't get me wrong, sometimes it does. It's so weird actually. Like, I was stuck on 99.7 for like ages. I just couldn't move. I was like, I'm never going to go over 100. I just was happy with it. I was like, whatever, it's fine. 99.7 it is what it is. Mm-hmm. Must have been on it for, could have probably have maybe been 9 months because I just kept losing followers and gaining them. And then one of my videos, the most random video went viral. Not viral, but it's kind of like half viral. And then I ticked over and I was like, but how long does it last? And then it goes quiet again. Then you start maybe losing a few, then you start gaining a few, and it's just like, those like toxic exes that like play with your emotions. They're like, should we get back together? And then I'm like, actually, no, I don't. That's what it's like.
It is. My big theory is actually that it's on purpose, but that these apps, for me, that's always been TikTok. Instagram, knock on wood, I've had the exact same thing. For me, it was 99.6. Well, I'll get to that in a second. Anyway. These apps are fuckboys. So they breadcrumb you, right? At first they're like, hey, oh my God, like, look at you. Here's a viral video. Like, you're amazing. And you're like, oh my God, me? And then they immediately pull back and they're like, yeah, but like, we'll see. And so you get all this inconsistency. And so you obsess, right? You're like, wait, what? What did I do wrong? Like, how can I win you back over? And and so you have to stay attached, right? Because as you said, you need it for your business. And like I don't have a business right now that I'm like funneling anything to, but to get, deals or whatever, or just, to keep things going, I also can't really go dark. I would have to like change careers. So you're just stuck being like, please, do you like me now? And they're kind of like, I don't know. And But it works, right? Because it keeps you on there. And that's really all the apps want. They just want you to be on there all the time. So,
Right.
I mean, nothing gets you attached like inconsistency.
Oh my God, yeah, I know. And it really does work. And like you said, it probably is deliberate because they probably want you to be like, well, you're doing good, but we think you could do better. Post more content and maybe we'll let one of them go viral. Do you know what I mean? It's one of those like, ugh, and it's so difficult. You said about it being your full-time job. So how do you make it your full-time job? Do you get comedy jobs from TikTok?
It's so funny. All the comedy that I do right now outside of social media is kind of just for fun. I mainly make my income from brand deals, and then I do make content for several companies. So it involves me making comedic videos, but I just give them to them and they do whatever they want with them. So I am a full-time content creator. It's not just, but it's not just my own performances and my own comedy. I have wanted to get back into doing stand-up, but I am not experienced enough in it to monetize it quite yet. I'd probably have to like take some classes and like make my type 5, as they call it. Cause all the stand-up I've done in the past has just been kind of like the same thing of skydiving. I just do it kind of for the thrill-seeking adrenaline element of it, where I'm like, I'll just show up to an open mic or even a show and just be like, what's up? And that's kind of it. I would love to get more comedy jobs from social media, but it's really interesting how, for example, like you're a performer, so you're a dancer. So performing, and taking a video of it and posting it, it's not necessarily all that different from performing on stage. Like the choreography is the same, at least if you're doing it the same. You correct me if I'm wrong, but what I mean is like what you're doing is effectively the same thing. It's just the platform that changes. Comedy is a little different. So for a joke to land on a video, sometimes what decides that is how the video was edited. So the timing or the lighting, even things like that. Whereas a joke landing, if I'm just on stage in front of a microphone or with other actors doing a scene, it's totally different. The expectations are different. What works changes. So it's not surprising to me that I don't get all that many offers to like be in a stand-up show or I don't know, be on a TV show, which anyone listening who wants to cast me, I'm available. It's a different skill set. It's not a guarantee that I can do that just because you've seen me, do Milkshake, like my little bit. So that's its own kind of other like full-time job. But like, this is good for now. This is kind of what I've like, been wanting to do for a while. So I'm just going to ride the wave. And we'll see.
Enjoy it. I mean, so you've got over 100,000 on Instagram. How many do you have on TikTok?
TikTok is like a little over 300,000.
So it's way bigger on TikTok.
Bigger on TikTok, but it's funny because what number is impressive is different between the apps. I was on a date months ago with a guy, and I was telling him that I was a creator, and he was like, "Oh, really? Like, how many followers do you have on TikTok?" And I was like, "Oh, whatever number it was. It was probably less than 300 at that point." And he kind of went, "Oh, okay." Like, which is not a bad response. And I wasn't expecting any kind of response, but like, imagine like if you were like, how much do you make? And you're like, "Oh, this number." And like, "Oh, okay." Like, I guess I'll like let it slide. It was this weird thing where I was like, "Oh," you know what I mean?
You kind of, it's funny because when people aren't impressed, you're a bit like, do you know what it fucking took to get to that number? You need to appreciate this more. Like, as well, like, I just feel like 300,000, like, or even 200,000, no matter what platform it's on, that is a large number. If you consider how many people that would be in a room, do you know what I mean? Like, it's a lot of people.
It's a lot of people. Yeah, there's this. Yeah, it's a good thing to keep in mind. There's this creator. Sorry, really fast. Or
go on. No, go on. What were you going to say? Because I was going to change slightly a little bit.
Well, this helps me a lot, and so hopefully it'll help you. He will talk about, I can't remember his name. But he will compare numbers. He's like, if you only have this many followers and you wish you had more, just remember, like, this number is how many it would take to fill this stadium, or, how many people, live in Texas, like just things like that, where it's like, oh, okay, like it's an accomplishment. You know?
Yeah, it's kind of a bit more humbling, isn't it? Because when you look at the numbers, because you built them up so long, you don't really appreciate how many 100,000 is. But when you think of how many people 100,000 people in a room is, you're like, oh, wow, actually, that's a lot of people. Yeah, I was going to ask, because you mentioned about you were on a date. So you're single currently.
Yes.
And what's it like dating as not only a content creator, but a comedy content creator? I don't know. Do you find men become intimidated by funny women?
Yes. I think I'm not going to necessarily say that every guy I've dated is intimidated because I'm funny, but I think that's the general thing, especially when they choose to poke fun at men, which I totally am not above. I've done that a bunch. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's like meeting anybody funny, especially if you consider yourself funny, it becomes a little bit of like a, light battle of like, oh, let me show you that I'm also funny. And it's a delicate balance because some like men in this case, they like that challenge. They're like, oh, nice. This is a girl who can hang. Like I'm gonna, engage in a little rapport with her. Others, I think, will be like, wait, I'm the funny one. Like I've always been the funny one. Usually the girl's just dumb and hot. I'm just kidding. But, so it depends. But like leading with funny, which is what I've just always done, instead of leading with like just hot, people will tell me like, oh, your DMs must just be full of guys. No one is hitting me up in the DMs like, hey, baby, let me take you out. Because, and I don't know why. No one, literally no one. I mean, like once in a blue moon, I guess, but there are girls that I know for a fact. I mean, girls who don't have necessarily like, they're not even necessarily public on Instagram all that much, but like, just like friends of mine who are just gorgeous and will just post beautiful pictures of them because they're just confident and are like, look how beautiful I am. I mean, their DMs are just full, like, just like, Arabian princes are like, please let me just buy you an island. So I'm just like, well, I guess. So it must have to do with the fact that I'm leading with comedy instead of like, I don't know. That's my theory. But,
do you think it's because some men maybe look for women who are less confident? And I feel like when you're confident enough to post content on social media that isn't just a pretty selfie of you, and it shows a different side to you. It shows that you've got personality. It shows that you've got your own voice. I think for some men it can be very intimidating. Well, for the type of man who would send a DM on Instagram. Do you know what I mean? So like the type of guy who'd be like, hey baby, like how are you? Like you're looking pretty hot. Like the type of guys that do that, they want a girl that's going to be like, oh, thank you, daddy, love you. Oh. Do you know what I mean? Like the kind of girl that's just going to be like a lot more submissive. So when you see someone like really killing it on TikTok and Instagram, they've got all these people following them. I feel like it can really intimidate some people. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. It's a common thing, I think, for not even just like this industry, but women in all industries, especially that are like involving entertainment and performing. The easiest thing to just accuse them of, knowing nothing about them, is like, oh, well, they got by on their looks. Like they got by because they're hot. And that is, super reductive and totally diminishes their talent and is usually not true. Usually, almost always, like women have to work really, really hard. But I think just, the Instagram version of that, of like, oh, she has a ton of followers. Like growing a following is really hard and it's a big accomplishment. But if the creator does capitalize on, her beauty and how good she looks in clothing that she's modeling, instead of being like, wow, she works really hard and is really putting in the hours to be an effective marketer and make her bag and get a following, it's so much easier because she's leading with hot. So you're like, oh, she just, people follow her because she's hot. But there's so much more to it than that. Comedy, it's like, I think it's just not as easy to write it off. Comedy or like business or being an expert at anything, it's just harder to ignore. It's harder to diminish. I will say the last guy I dated broke up with me. I appreciate this. He was self-aware about it, but he was also a creator. He was a musician. And so he was his social media was basically to like publicize his music career. But in the span that we dated, my Instagram following surpassed his like fivefold. which like whatever, like who cares? But
He did.
yeah, that was apparent because whatever, poor guy. But he told me, he was like, honestly, I don't feel good about myself, and you deserve someone who can celebrate your success. And you know what? You got to hand it to him. That's very self-aware. I think
Good for him.
Yeah, a lot of guys can, show their insecurity in like much more destructive ways. So at least he was honest and just like gave it to me straight. But I was like, oh, it just never occurred to me that would, like, I was just like, really? That's like a thing? Come on. It's a hard thing. It's vulnerable.
Didn't really want to look more into why he felt that way. It's funny actually, because I like listening to podcasts actually. I was listening to a podcast, it's called Diary of a CEO, and he was interviewing a woman who had started her own business. She surpassed her husband, and she was talking about like how it made him feel and stuff, and that she'd like left her husband and stuff, and the guy she's with now is much better with it, and like it really it does. It's funny, like that toxic masculinity thing sometimes I think really plays a part in it. And, the whole men are the breadwinner and, women stay at home and, have babies and cook dinner kind of thing. I think because especially me, I don't know about you, but in the UK, I grew up around that. That was really the thing. It was never did the dad ever drop the kids off to school. It was always mums. Like there was never dads at school. And if it was because, I don't know, the mum was sick or like something bad had happened. It was never because he was the stay-at-home dad. That was not a thing. Never when I was a kid. So it's something that I grew up around. It was just that whole thing of like, I could imagine that me as a person, let's say, for example, I was straight. Oh, God forbid. But like, let's say there was a time where I might have been straight. Do you know what I mean? Like that I might have felt like that, where I wouldn't have wanted the woman that I was dating to earn more than me. Yeah, it's funny. I don't know what it's like, because you're in the US, aren't you?
I'm in LA.
I don't know what it's like for the people in the US, whether it's the same kind of thing there or.
It's definitely still there. I think there's a little more variety. For example, my mom, she's an attorney, so she had like a full-time job my entire childhood. And my dad also works. He just like managed to be able to be home a little bit more. So no one was like a stay-at-home parent per se, but my mom was the one like really putting in the heavy hours. And so I didn't grow up internalizing gender roles as much in that way. And, like I obviously had tons of friends who did have stay-at-home moms. And I did wish when I was younger that my mom could stay at home just so that like I could see her more, honestly, and just be home more instead of like having to have a nanny or like do after school stuff. What I will say is, again, it's definitely here. There are definitely men that I've met in person out here in LA, all over the country, who definitely have that very specific and super old school expectation for women. But then there are plenty who don't. I have a lot of friends who joke that they hope they can marry a woman who enables them to just be a stay-at-home dad. Like, I get it. Like, I would love that too. I think it's also not just that one gender dynamic. I think, women definitely get jealous of each other. I've never experienced this directly, but, if I did have like a close female friend, it's totally not lost on me that it could be some kind of an ugly thing if I were to, like, just depending on their personality type. I've only ever had supportive, awesome female friends, so I'm like super lucky. Yeah. But yeah, I will say with dating, the only time was really that one time when I happened to be dating someone who is also a creator. Any other guy I've ever dated doesn't even touch social media. They're all those guys who have like the one picture of themselves from 2018 on their Instagram. So they don't care. They're like, oh, that's cool. Like, it's not really an issue. But yeah, career success is a tricky thing, I think.
For sure.
Great people.
With the comedy thing, where do you think you got the comedy side from? Is it like from your dad, from your mom, another family member? Is there someone in your family who's like, was always like joking with you and encouraged you to go for the comedy?
Definitely my dad. He was always just like Mr. Funny Guy growing up. He was doing voices, cracking jokes. I didn't really realize I was funny until I graduated college. But here's the thing. I know why I'm funny, because I was the most deeply unattractive child. I can't drive this home enough. Like, I was just so not cute. And I was like really annoying, whatever. And it's so funny because all my friends growing up were all gorgeous, athletic homecoming queens. And they just kind of let me hang out. And looking back, I was like, why? And I was like, oh, because I compensated with humor. I was like the, Zach Galifianakis, like clown of the friend group. And so I earned my bread that way. But I was like, never in a million years did I think I would be a comedian until my dad, I was like getting ready to move to LA and he was like, you should do stand up. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he was just like, just give it a try. And I just kind of did one day. And then I was like, oh, this is fun. I like this. I like kind of making people listen to me and, feeding off the laughter. Like, it's just my precious. So that, very quickly became my thing. But like, no, I wanted to be like a Broadway girl in high school. Like, I was not trying to be funny. I was trying to. Yeah, that was my thing all growing up. And that's what I originally went to school for opera, if you can believe it.
Wow.
But it didn't. Yeah, didn't last though, because that's hard. And again, I'm super lazy.
Well, yeah, but opera's hard. But I mean, have you got so the only reason I was asking that, have you ever thought about doing like musical comedy, like actually singing the songs or anything like? Have you thought of experimenting with any stuff like that? Like
totally. On my TikTok, I've done a few. You can see them. They're pinned at the top of my profile. But it's
singing
kind of the opposite
ones?
thing. Yeah. Where I'll sing the song but change the lyrics. So it's like it's just a parody.
Nice.
But I've done it a couple times. But that's the thing about TikTok and Instagram now too. I'm sure you've experienced this. It's like when you experiment with a new style of content, you're really rolling the dice. And it's happened to me on Instagram. I'm sure it has for you too. This actually got me. I once hit 100K. And I don't know why I thought this, but I was like, there's no way the Instagram gods, like now that I hit 100K, they'll let me stay there. Like they're not going to, but it dropped. It dropped after I posted a singing video and it went back down to like 99 point something. And it's that thing where you're like, oh my God, immediately you're like, everyone knows, everyone sees it and like thinks I'm gross and a failure. And it ruined, it really ruined my like week. And
do you know who Gus Kenworthy is? Have you heard of a guy called Gus? So he's like a skier, but I only know about him because he came out as like one of the first like Olympic skiers that came out as gay. And he did a post saying, hey everyone, thank you for 1 million. And then everyone unfollowed him and he dropped back under again. He was like, you fuckers. Obviously shortly after that, he went back up again. But this is why I don't ever announce I've gone over 100K. I'm not going to do a post about it because people will be like, oh, unfollow. And that comes from like a jealousy place. I think, like the success, it makes people think, oh, they're doing well, I'm going to unfollow them. Isn't that weird how people work? It's just a really odd human trait that people would see that someone's done well, they've hit 1 million followers and they'd think, I'm going to unfollow them.
Yeah. Well, because there's nothing more intimidating if you're not in the social media world, like, and you know nothing about it. It really feels like it feels like a club that you belong to or you don't belong to. And that feeling never goes away. But like, yeah, especially if you see someone doing well on social media, this is at least how I feel. This could be my own insecurities. But now it's always kind of like, okay, at the very most, it's like a competitive thing where I'm like, okay, I need to like up my own game. But yeah, I mean, before I ever entered into it or, in my really low points with my relationship with social media, it's like, yeah, you feel bad and you resent that person for doing well. You're like, well, like, oh, you hit 100K? Well, we'll see about that. So it's like I don't really blame those people who do that because, I mean, yeah, it's not the most productive way to act on that insecurity, but it's also, I mean, social media is such a weird thing that we all now have to deal with. Like we never used to have to see each other succeeding, just getting smacked in the face with it all the time. So like, it's hard, I cut people some slack with that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I just find it, I'm very much like, nowadays anyway, I'm very much like, I call it toxic positivity as like a joke, but like I will go to people's pages. That's why I messaged you when I first started following you. I was like, oh my God, just want to tell you, love your content, keep going, it's amazing, so funny. And I just do that as kind of like a standard thing now because I just love. A couple of people did that for me when I first started creating my content and I was doing well and they were like, oh, I love your stuff, thank you so much for posting. I was like, that's such a nice thing to say. Like they've taken time out of their day to do that. And so I'm going to do that for people. So I try to always comment and like people's posts where I can, and just show support. Do you know what I mean? Hey, sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to come on and tell you about one of our sponsors for this podcast. And this podcast is sponsored by Polos. I know what you're thinking. Wait, isn't Polos your business? Yeah, it is. Listen, if you can't support yourself, who can you support, hey? Polos is an online store where we sell lots of pole-related merchandise. You can get everything from pole dancing princesses, pole dancing dogs, pole dancing cats, all the way up to tops that say heels bigger than your dick. So it's very much varied in its approach. We've got some rude ones and we've got some super cute ones. So if you're looking for a nice top for someone who just wants a nice little dog pole dancing on a pole, go for it. That's where you need to go, polos.com. And if you want a bath bomb that's in the shape of a penis, because let's be honest, why wouldn't you want that? Then yeah, you need to go to polos.com and get yourself a dick-shaped bath bomb. Go and check us out now, polos.com. What about the dark side? Have you had any bad experiences with trolls or people just trying to drag you down? Like, what's your experience with that?
Yeah, you have too. I'm sure you have. That never goes away. First of all, I really want to just give you credit for that's not toxic positivity. That just shows immense character. And it's really inspiring to me because I should be doing more of that. Because you're right, it really means the world. Like in the early days, I remember that DM from you. I really do. I was like, wow, like that's so nice. It probably has just made you an overall happier person because, self-esteem is gained by esteemable acts. And, anyway, all I mean to say is that is great. And more people, myself included, should be doing more of that.
For the trolls, one thing I will actually just quickly say is that before I started doing this, I would say that I went through a period where I felt like I was a little bit negative as well online. Like I almost got a bit jealous of other people's success and stuff. And it took a long time for me to realize that actually I feel so much better as a person, and I feel so much better on social media when I'm nice to people and they give me love back and I give them love and I tell them they're amazing. Do you know what I mean? And we all support each other. Whereas there was a time where it would take one person to say something bad to me and I'd be like, look what this person said. Let's all go to their page and tell them they're a dick. And nowadays I'm just like, I just swipe delete. If someone comments something nasty, I'm just like, bye-bye. Just delete it and I just get rid of it, and it's so much better. Whereas before I would have just chosen violence straight away, whereas now I try just to leave with love as much as possible. But yeah, sorry, carry on. What's the worst experience that you've had with things like that?
Well, it depends on what I'm already struggling with internally, and that has been different over my career for this past year. So for example, one of the lyrics things I did for a while was movie trailers. And do you remember the corn kid? Did you happen to see him? The algorithm he may not have made it to you, but it was this kid.
There's a couple that you post that they don't always make sense to me because it's sometimes a country thing. It's an American thing versus the UK. So that's why some of them I'm like, oh, I know that song. But it just takes one song that you don't know and you don't know what the lyrics originally sounded like. So it's harder to know. But yeah, sorry, carry on.
No, that's okay. Yeah, I mean, that's obviously a part of it. And you can look up the corn kid if you want, and you'll probably understand pretty immediately why I got this response. But it was this adorable kid in New York City who got interviewed, and he was just obsessed with corn and wouldn't stop talking about it. And so someone made a song about it, and it went so viral. It was one of those things on TikTok where you couldn't escape the sound. Every video had it.
Oh, and this one was it's corn.
Yeah. Yep. So you do know it, yes.
Okay, so I know the sound, but I've never seen. I've always thought, what the hell is this like? I don't understand. Where does this come from? Okay, now I know. Right. Thank you.
That's what it is. Yeah. So someone made a song out of this really cute. I think he was 6, but anyway, so yeah, it was a song. Everybody knew it. And one of the, strategic things for social media is if there's something that is going around, figure out how to participate. And I was like, it's a song. It has lyrics, boom. So I did a action movie trailer, kind of about a movie where a giant ear of corn takes over a city, whatever. And it went viral, which always feels good. That feels good. But then the inevitability is that, for every positive comment of being this is so funny or whatever, you're going to get cringe that as a comment. And I got, that was easily the most times in one video that I just got told over and over and over again, cringe, 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 cringe. And cringe feels like, to me, I don't know why, that's like the king of insults on social media, because when a video for me really is cringe and I'm kind of like, ooh, it's, you know, I just hate to think that I have made someone feel like that. And,
Right.
you know,
But do you not
because I
think
want,
that that's really weird that people are cringing for you? It's like, don't cringe for me. Like, it's fine. You don't have to. Because for me, the word cringe is almost like, oh, I feel sorry for you. Like, I'm really embarrassed for you. So it's almost like a bit of a pity kind of comment. So I hate that. It's like, if you don't like it, fucking keep scrolling, bitch. Do you know what I mean? It's like, why do they have to take their time to type cringe? Like, if it's cringe, just scroll by. But
yeah,
I know what you mean, though, because it does make you think a bit like, ooh, is it cringe? Like,
is it cringe?
you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like, the recipe for cringe for like comedic content. Because also, you bet, I was getting the same comment over again, like, oh, she's such a millennial. This is such millennial humor. And millennial and cringe are like kind of synonymous now. And here's the thing about like that comment. Both of those, basically it was just like, oh, look at her. She worked really hard on this video. She spent a lot of time on it and gave it a lot of thought and wanted us to like it. That is the easiest thing to prey upon. Because like, if you just do a low effort, ironic video, you throw it up and you're like, I don't really care if you guys like this or not. That's harder to call cringe because it's like, well, that person doesn't really care about an opinion anyway. It's not as vulnerable. But if I'm like, look at this video that I edited and like, you know, I hope you like it. It's so much easier to bully me. And that's a very like millennial thing. Gen Z is all about being like ironic and, oh, what? Like, I just like turned my camera on. This video got 5 million views. Like, I don't even like TikTok. Like, that's kind of the Gen Z vibe of it. So it's all like,
oh my God, you need to do some skits on just the differences between millennials and Gen Z, because that is so what it's like. Oh my God. Okay, you need to write that one down, because that one needs to be.
I really will. Yeah, you'll notice it now too. Like if you ever happen to be on TikTok or even Instagram, although like the millennials, like we kind of own Instagram. I've just now accepted that I'm a millennial because I was born in 95. And so, you know, I was in the dark for a while.
How does that make you now?
I'm 27.
27.
Yeah. How old are you?
34. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So, but yeah, it's what I'm 34. I feel like I'm going on 50 when I go on TikTok, because I'm like,
I know.
I go on TikTok and I just think, I know it sounds terrible because I say it like this, so I'm like, how are these kids doing all this stuff? Like some of the editing. Joe, I've got a friend actually who also does pole, and he is a bit younger than me, but he is very good at the video editing. So he does all the really cool transitions where he'll literally be like, so he was like on a pole, for example, he's up the top of the pole, he's holding these clothes. He drops the clothes, drops down the pole, and then he's dressed in the clothes. I'm like, how is he doing this? I'm like, wow, that's magic. And don't get me wrong, like I can do basic, but it's so funny. Me and my friend, Ali, we like, every now and then we'll try and do like a TikTok trend or something, and then we'll post it and be like, I'll message her, I'll be like, why haven't we gone viral? Why have we not gone viral? And she's like, I don't know. I'm like, sort this out. We need to go viral now.
Sort this out. Well, every time you hear, even me, like whenever someone talks about going viral, especially for like the first time early on, so I was like, what? I didn't even like think that would happen. And I think that like there's some truth to that. I mean, there was truth to that for me because I really had such low expectations at that point that like, you know, maybe I was just so authentic and just like really wanted to make that video and didn't care what happened. And that resonated and made it go viral because like something that's obviously trying to go viral can be really cringy. I just think, I don't know, it's such a weird world to navigate. And there's no clear answer. We never really know, right? Even the experts don't know what's going on. I saw some video today that I don't know what the sources were, but saying that, oh, no, there are basically people at TikTok HQ who really do like, will see a video and just decide we want that to go viral. I'm like, that's a job? Like, what are you talking about? I just find that hard to believe. But
someone sat there like this, their eyes closed, like, you.
Yeah. What are you talking about?
Right.
Like, I don't know. who knows? Well, I'll never know. It's, all behind the curtain.
Yeah, it's one of those things I'm like, I would love to know. Like, I would just love to know if there's, like the people who decide whether the video should be taken down or not and stuff. Like, who is doing this job and stuff? Like, I would just love to know the real truth, because no one really knows, do they? I just I just find that really funny. But yeah, TikTok is one of those ones where I can just sit there and just lose hours of the day. I don't know whether you find this. Do you find TikTok is much more of a positive place? Do you find that there's a lot more positivity there, would you say?
I think so.
Not from the point of view of the creator, as a viewer, just to scroll through. I just find it makes me happier, whereas I find I get a lot more negative stuff on Instagram.
Yeah. Oh, that's definitely true. TikTok was the first, app, the recommendation-based element of it was so groundbreaking. And yeah, that's why people are, obsessed with it now and chasing the serotonin, because it's really just like, it gives you exactly what you want to watch. It has this weird way of knowing at any given point too. Like, there was a while where for some reason my feed was only tarot card readers, because I guess I was just really stressed in my future. And TikTok knew that. And yeah, it kept me on for hours, because this person was telling me, don't worry, the right person's right around the corner. Don't worry, you're on the right path career-wise. And I was just like, okay, great. And then other times, it's just all cooking videos or cat videos. It just gives you what you want. Instagram, I don't really know what Instagram's trying to achieve with their algorithm, because like the meme accounts I follow and stuff like that, it can be negative. It can be kind of a bummer. Or it can be, just people, like models that I will never look like, and leave not feeling as good.
I feel like with Instagram, I don't know if you've noticed this, like you have to kind of like or comment on stuff for it to then show you more. So for example, I've got Samoyeds, right? I've got 3 Samoyed dogs, and I liked a Samoyed post that my husband sent to me, and then they started showing more Samoyed content, and I liked more content, so now they keep showing me it, and I love that. But on TikTok, so my husband loves TikTok, but he refuses to like or comment on anything, because he doesn't want it to show him certain stuff. He likes just to he just likes it to be really random. But now he noticed that the same stuff keeps coming up. And so for example, he sat down watching one of these these alien conspiracy theories where they're like, there was a UFO above a club in Vegas kind of thing. And he watched the whole thing, and then he was like, oh my God, all I'm getting is like UFO stuff. I was like, it's because you watched it the whole way through. So now whenever we're on TikTok, if it's something shit, I'm like, quick, swipe off it, get off it quickly, get off it quickly.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'll always remember on TikTok, right, that I posted, when I first went on TikTok, I really didn't know what I was doing. So I posted a video of me putting a bath bomb into the water. I was just in the bath. I just threw this really cool shaped bath bomb, because I just wanted to play with it and test it out. And I posted it and just thought, let's just see like what this is and just play around with it. And anyway, I left this video up there. And this video got hundreds of comments, but do you want to know what they commented? And this was where I really was like, oh, this is where I ended up getting like the troll thing. The one comment they made where they were like, do you shave your legs? Oh my God, do you shave your legs? And I was like, everyone was obsessed with the fact that I fucking shaved my legs. So, talk about cringe. I was like, oh my God, I've posted a video and the only thing they can comment on is the fact that I shaved my legs, because I have to shave my legs for grit. I don't have to, but I just choose to. I just remember thinking, like, that was my first experience TikTok. So for me, I was just like, if you had to pick one, which one would you choose?
Yeah. Oh, man. Now, Instagram. But I think that's because, again, TikTok and I are beefing. Like, it's just, I don't know what's going on. I'm sure you've experienced this, maybe even on Instagram too, where like the algorithm is just really giving me the silent treatment right now. So I'm still feeding it. I'm still, doing my best. But Instagram, that's not the only reason. It's also that I love posting stories. I think stories never really took off on TikTok the same way, but an Instagram story I feel like is a really great way for people to get to know you, beyond just like what your niche is, if you choose to do it. Like not everybody like is active on stories, but like if you felt a need for people to know more about you and your life beyond pole dancing. You know, your story
Right.
is such a fun way to like add that layer, and people are more active in the DMs, just, you know, chatting. You know, we connected there. It just really feels like more of an actual like interactive space. TikTok, it feels like to ever even get off the ground, to ever even have any kind of connectivity, it feels like the video has to go viral first. And if it's just kind
Right.
of, you know, flopping and not really ever taking off anyway, it's I don't know, I'm not as motivated on it. But yeah, so
Yeah,
I think right now,
I do really enjoy Instagram more. I just feel like
Mhm.
Instagram is just like, I don't know, I think just because it was the first one I used. I love TikTok in terms of watching, really enjoy it. And I do put content on there, and I've noticed that for TikTok, it's really funny. Like choreography, like actual choreography works way better on TikTok than doing like
Yeah.
pole tricks does. So I always post dancing on there more than I'll post like tricks. But yeah, it's just funny. Like you said, it's trying to work out what these freaking people who are sat in TikTok offices telling you which one's going to go viral. It's trying to find out what the fuck they want, and you just don't know.
You don't know. It's hard. It's really hard. And it's also hard to keep believing in your ability because, especially if it's consistently, your videos are not performing well. And especially if they like that exact format used to, and all of a sudden it's like, never mind, we don't like this. Like, it's impossible not to be like, oh no, like what's wrong with me? What have I done wrong? How can I be sure that investing time in getting better and keeping doing this is like a good use of my time? What if I never pass back over 100K? Like, and I just stay, or yeah, you just stay at 99.9 for 9 months. That's crazy. But like we have to do, unless we find something else that like is just as exciting to us and that we're just as passionate about, we got to keep doing it. So it's just another way that the job is hard, but it's certainly better than working at that agency that I worked at, or like bartending at a rooftop in Hollywood. So, you know, I'll take it for now, but yeah, it can take a toll emotionally for sure.
What would you, talking about taking a toll emotionally, I was going to ask you about, because obviously, like we talked about with like trolls and stuff and, you know, chasing the algorithm and all these things, how would you say that affects your mental health? Do you have much like problems with like mental health issues because of how obsessed we've become? I only asking that because I definitely have. There's been times where people have said things to me online, and I've taken it so personally. Like, and then it's really taken some time for me to kind of pick myself out of that and realize that actually it's not about me. But what about you?
You know, that is a really good question, and I'd really have to think about it because I do think before I got serious about social media, I was so frustrated about where I was in my career. I felt really paralyzed and really scared of social media and putting myself back out there. And because I wasn't doing anything, it made me harder on myself. And so my mental health was really at a low before. And when things got so much better once I started seeing this steady growth on social media and just got my confidence back. I will say lately, like in the past few months, just, you know, every day fighting the cringe factor. And, you know, because really what you do every time you post is like, you're hoping that someone likes you. Really, that's kind of just what you're doing every day. And especially when the key to really being happy is actually not caring what people think of you and not caring what anyone's opinion is. It's hard to separate the two. So I think overall, my mental health is better than it was when I was really just kind of not doing anything and I was too scared. But I have to take really strong measures for those days when like the trolls are really bad or like everything's flopping, or even just I can't think of any new content. I'm just feeling creatively stifled, to remember like it's not the end of the world. Like no one died. It's fine. And also remembering this is what I love to do. Like I love doing it. And that's the whole point anyway. The thing about the trolls, like I always remember this, is like, I don't know, the only time I guess I don't know for sure, but like you were only ever motivated, I'm assuming, to like clap back at someone or go to their page if they, you know, attacked you first. Like, have you ever had the impulse to like comment a trolling comment on someone's post, like just out of nowhere, if it was like a post that wasn't attacking you?
No,
Do you
it's funny,
think?
like not. I think the only thing that I would say I have commented is when people do something I really don't agree with, like if they're being mean or transphobic or something or homophobic, I'd clap back on that. I can't help it with things like that. But I wouldn't go on someone's video and be like, babe, like your pole move is shit. Like you look terrible. Why are you posting this? Never.
Exactly.
I just
Of
couldn't.
course, that is, yeah, that is such a specific kind of unhappiness that motivates that. Because, yeah, no, if someone were to attack me, like I think you really have the right, especially if they're posting something publicly. Yes, absolutely comment your counter opinion if it's something that is coming after you. Like you absolutely have that right. I mean, you have the right to comment anything on anything. But again, it's such a specific kind of unhappiness to see a video that someone made joyfully that doesn't affect you in any way, that, you know, to just yuck their yum and comment something or like, you know, just attack them. Again, no one is mean like that when they're happy. No, if you're happy, you're not interested in, you know, shooting anybody else down.
Right.
So that's what I have to remember when someone does call me cringe. It's just like, odds are they are feeling how I felt a year ago. Just probably odds are they wish they could do it. They're scared to, whatever. And the only thing that'll make them feel better in the moment is to just try and tear me down.
Right.
You have to just assume that, because that's the only way to keep going. I couldn't, if I internalized it and was like, I'm cringe, I would stop.
It's got to come from, like you said, it's got to come from a real place of like lack of self-confidence, self-hatred maybe even, like, because to do that, you really must be in a bad place to do things like that. And I always try to sympathize with people who do things like that. But it is still really hard. I have to say, like, it's so funny. Like, you know, we were talking about like, oh, you know, you've got to be confident in yourself and know that, you know, people are just like that. And some days I'll be like, oh, whatever. I just swipe delete and I don't care. And then other days, someone will post a story to be like, oh, Dan did this or whatever, and I don't like it, and blah, blah, blah. And it will really make me feel bad. And I'll be like, oh, you know, I'll just be like, God, why are they, imagine going to such an effort. But it is one of those things, like one day I could be absolutely fine with it, and next day it can be really hurtful for me. It really depends on my own like mental health that day, really. But I do always just try to remember as well, and I feel like this is so important, even people listening, just to remember that these people would never say this to your face. They would never come up to you on the street and just say, hey, just to let you know, I saw this video of you and I thought it was shit. They would never. I don't know anyone would have the guts to. But also, like, if they were sat at your comedy show, how would they react if you told a bad joke? Let's say you told a bad joke. They're not going to stand and be like, shit joke, and then sit back down, or cringe and sit down, are they? You know what I mean? Yeah. They might just let the one bad joke go and then they wouldn't care. But people just have this sense of confidence from the behind a screen, and I've talked about it loads on this podcast, because online trolls is one thing that I really fucking hate. So yeah, it's definitely one of those things. I just hate it so much. It really just makes me super sad.
It is so sad, but yeah, that's the easiest, laziest, safest, most cowardly thing to do. Because yeah, even if someone, let's say I was doing a stand-up show and someone, I mean, hecklers are everywhere, but they're hecklers, and then everyone hates them, and then the comedian will probably come for you. So that's really vulnerable and really scary, and it's not the same thing. Like, that's just more, I mean, it's kind of the same thing of like, I just want attention, I just want to like voice my feeling about this, and like I'm insecure basically. But a comment, you know, you just can send it and then go about your day. And like, even if, let's say, the comedian goes as far as to reply or make a video reply, and that video reply goes viral, you know, all that, you can still kind of avoid that if you want. Like, you can, you know, just not watch the video. You can delete the app altogether. So it's the, you know, highest risk thing. You can avoid the consequences the most. So yeah, of course people are going to troll people on the internet. You can do it totally anonymously. Yeah. You can avoid the consequences, and there's not really all that much people can do about it. I mean, if things are really bad, obviously the app will take the comment down or delete your profile and stuff. But yeah, typically it's kind of just like, well, you know, they have the right to their opinion. So yeah, it's a tough thing.
It always makes me laugh that most of the time they won't even do it from their own profile. They'll make a fake profile, right? Because they don't, just in case the comedian does make a video response and shares their name, because then obviously they know that people will come straight for them. They know how it works. Do you know a comedian called Benny Drama? Do you follow him?
I love Benny Drama. My son rises and sets with him.
Oh my God, I'm obsessed with him. His impressions of the Kardashians literally cracks me up. But the reason I was asking about Benny Drama was because, obviously, again, he's huge now. But when I first started following him, he was kind of newer to it. And now he's really just gone, like... And I really can see this is where you're going. This is why I was like, damn it, I'm getting this fucking interview in now before you have, like, millions of followers. And you'll be like, my message won't even get through to you. But, like... You know, do you ever consider like the route that he's gone down of like doing live shows and doing like, I don't know, like a TED Talk tour? Do you know what I mean? Oh my God, I need to copyright that, by the way. I'm going to need royalties on the name. But have you ever thought of doing like kind of what he's done and like keep going with your content and still create this amazing content, but also doing some tours alongside it and, you know, really getting the opportunity to make like even merchandise and things like that as well. Like, you know, Zozo Rowe. Do you follow Zozo Rowe?
Yeah, I love her.
Like Zozo Rowe, again, like she's got her merchandise and stuff and she's got the things that she says and everyone loves it. She's got her like jumpers that say yeah on it and stuff. Just, you know, these little things like, do you have any plans for things like that? Is that where you want to go with it?
Yes, it is. That in theory, yes, 100%. It's still really intimidating to me. And the show thing, it's funny that you mentioned that. I've been working on this show of mine. It's like a one-woman show long before I ever started on social media. And the social media growth became this big distraction from having to work on the show. Because at the time I was like, again, super frustrated with my career. And I was like, I just resented that I was like working on something that no one was seeing. And so when social media, I got that, you know, instant validation and things were going well, I was like, let's just do this for a while. Now I'm going back to the show and reworking it and getting it ready to, take on tour, hopefully, and, you know, perform live. Because that really, at the end of the day, like, what I am just passionate about from any angle is just like entertaining people and making them laugh. It's not necessarily just on social media. So I really want to do both. That now the struggle for me is becoming the time commitment of it, because as you pointed out, social media is a full-time gig. And if you're going to have another full-time gig in addition, you have to just be really good at time management. And that is something I struggle with. I wish I could be like a morning routine girly. I'm really trying, but it's more just like every day I'm kind of just like, which way's up? I don't know. So yes, I'm working on it. I want to build an empire and like a brand like those guys, because they really have done it. They've slayed. And I want to graduate to that. I'm just figuring out how, like, what my approach will be. Like, I wish there were a class, you know?
you were saying at the beginning of this podcast, you were saying that, you know, for a long time, you didn't really have the confidence to create the content. And then one day you just thought, right, I'm just going to do it. Do you think things like we're talking about now, like talking about the future, do you think confidence is something that stops you from being like, do you know what? Yeah, I am going to do exactly what Benny's done. And I'm going to create a brand for myself. And I'm going to, you know, start to create merch and go on tour and create this one-woman tour. And it's going to be amazing. And like, do you think confidence is something that stops you from doing that?
Yeah, definitely like the imposter syndrome element of like, but who am I really to be doing this? Like, who's really going to listen to me? What do I really know? Nothing. So that's obviously just a lack of confidence. And the thing about social media is like, it's not the same thing as doing a show or starting a business, where basically what I mean is like, you can post something and if it doesn't do well, not only is it not a big deal, there's so much noise and like, it'll just, you know, fall into the flow, but you could just deny. You could be like, I didn't really care anyway. Like, I wasn't expecting it to go well. If you are going to, you know, write a show and invest in it, a business, if you are going to, you know, put yourself out there in one of those, you know, real life ways and it fails, you're so much more accountable for that. You know, you have to like deal with that in a much bigger way. And that's just kind of like something you got to get over, because that's just always a risk. So yeah, developing the confidence to just be like, let's just try it and not worry if it's going to fail. Yeah, it's my big task right now.
It is, but you got to fail at things. Like I tried doing this thing. I mean, this show is called The Weekly D, right? And it was called The Weekly D because I used to do something called The Daily D. because obviously, like, just because it was cheeky, like, you know, I just thought, oh, I'll do like the Daily D, and it would just be like funny little like bits of advice. I just wasn't enjoying it anymore. People like, I didn't, I don't know. It was fun and I enjoyed doing it, but it was taking up so much of my time. And I just realized that it wasn't hitting like I wanted it to. And I just thought, you know what? This didn't work. I'm just going to stop. So I just stopped. And it's the same with this podcast. Let's say, for example, in a year's time, like this podcast doesn't get any better or whatever. I feel more confident nowadays to just accept that something didn't work and know I've got loads of other things that have worked. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like, but I agree with you. It was the same for me. Like, it's that fear, isn't it, of being embarrassed because something didn't work. And then you feel like everyone knows, like talking about how, oh, do you remember that time that Madeline did this and it didn't land or whatever? No one cares. No one cares. Not enough to really go out their way and talk about that. But yeah, it's funny. I can totally relate to you. To wrap up, I just want to ask you, what is, and I love asking people this, from a business point of view, life point of view, anything really. Do you have like a 5 or a 10-year plan? I love asking people this. Normally people are like, no. But like, what's your plan? Like, where do you see yourself in 10 years?
That's a great question. Okay, I'll give you like my best case scenario answer just in the interest of manifesting. But this show, again, I've been working on the show for years, and it's a one-woman show, and it involves comedy, singing, and actually animation. It's not really a one-woman show because it's me and kind of like cartoon me hanging out and talking. So I would love, in a perfect world, to be able to have that as a concept, take it on tour, and then eventually kind of turn that into like a show or maybe its own content brand, like a YouTube series. And basically, in some way, shape, or form, over the next 5 years, develop that into like at least the first real feather in my cap professionally and creatively outside of social media. So like whether that means, you know, I'm Phoebe Waller-Bridge and it becomes a TV show, like that'd be amazing. Or just, again, a web series, that would be great too. Blah, I don't know. Just
No, hold on. This manifesting is terrible. No, you're going to have your own show. You're going to be asked to go onto all these shows to be like a comedy judge on these comedy shows. Like, I genuinely like, it's, like I said, I love comedy content. I see comedy content all the time, but because it was something so original, and I know obviously, I am a fan, so it is going to be like, this is obviously my opinion because I really like your content. But, you know, I really think you've got the personality to do it, because you can get funny comedians who still don't have the right personality. I can see you being on TV. Like, I can see having your own TV show because you've got the right personality for it. Do you know what I mean? Whereas there are comedians who I follow, hilarious, but oh my God, the thought of them hosting a TV show, like, oh my God, just because the comedy, it's not the correct type of comedy. Do you know what I mean? So listen, I mean, the one woman show, of course, is going to be a thing, but we need to think bigger, I think we need to be going for
so right.
One woman show, that's going to be in the next couple of years, then that's going to literally make you go viral. People are going to be like, who is this girl? They're going to be hiring on TV. You're going to be the next fucking Ellen DeGeneres.
Love it.
We're manifesting it. It's out there.
Right.
It's out there. 100%. But I do think of people like Ellen DeGeneres, and I just think, she could do it. Why couldn't you? Like, what a crazy career she had to go from doing comedy to having her own TV show and stuff. Like, amazing. So yeah, I know I'm going to see some amazing things from you, which is exactly why I got you on here now. So when you're like super famous, I'll be like, well, everyone, you can go and check out a podcast that I did with her years ago.
I'll come back on. I'll come back on and do it with you.
Oh my God. I'll have to message you and be like, hey, remember that time we did a podcast before you were like super famous? Can you help me out? I need to make this podcast even bigger.
That is
in fact,
so funny.
Hold on. That was terrible manifesting. No, hold on. No, my podcast's going to be huge by then, obviously.
Yeah. You can't also be bad at it. I'm so bad at manifesting because I'm always kind of like, oh, I really want this thing. Like, if that's okay, universe. Like, it's a lot harder for me to be like,
yeah, you know when you're like, my friend's always like this. She's like, oh, you're going to be making $50,000 a month in like, so I'm like, babe, come on, let's be realistic. She's like, Dan, that's not how manifesting works. She's like, you can't all of a sudden be like, well, I'd like 50K a month, but I'm going to be realistic and say that I'd be happy with 2K a month. So no, so you can't do that. So you have to just stick with this and say, this is what you're going to do. But yeah, oh my God, manifesting is definitely something we both need to practice by the sounds of things.
Yes. Yes, we do. Because that is really it. Like, why can't Ellen do it? Like, why can't we? Well, because like Ellen just obviously believed in herself. Like maybe she wasn't like actively manifesting, but like she obviously thought she could do it because she tried to do it. And it's so much harder to do something if the whole time you're like, I'm not really gonna do this, you know? So you're right. That manifesting is terrible.
She tried it and she made it work. And I think it's definitely like a confidence thing is for sure. Like when it comes to manifesting, so long as you're confident with it as well. You know, when you see people like look at like people like Elon Musk and stuff, and I just think, what a confident guy, just to have just been like, do you know what? Yeah, okay. Don't get me wrong, I don't always agree with everything that he says, but I do look at his businesses and I think, do you know what? A fucking clever guy. He just went for it and he's done really well. So and we're gonna do the same. We're putting it out there.
That's right.
It's out in the universe. But yeah, thank you so much for coming and chatting to me. I feel like I could have talked to you for hours on end. But
me too.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been the best.
Thank you. My pleasure.
See you soon. Bye.
Okay, so bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. Really hope you enjoyed it. And remember, as always, if you have someone that you want me to interview, they don't even need to be a pole dancer. I want to start interviewing more cool people. So send me their names. I will get in contact with them. And who knows, they might be on this podcast next week. Until next time.
If you're not getting any and you want some tea, then come and join Dan up on the weekly tea.